Hello, nature lovers. Do you love to read books like I do? I've always enjoyed reading books ever since I was a kid, especially books about nature. Unfortunately, as I get older, I find myself with less and less time to sit down with a good book. I've solved that problem with Audible. Audible allows you to listen to your favorite titles while you are driving, at the gym, taking a walk, wherever you are. With all the latest titles, you'll have quite a selection to choose from. And they have podcasts too. Start listening today with a free 30-day trial. To get your free 30-day trial, go to the show notes and click on the link. Happy listening. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Nature Wanderer podcast. I feel like I should be doing a really spooky voice for this episode. Yes, we are getting close to Halloween. Oh, a time of scary. Yes, Halloween. It's one of my favorite holidays. I mostly like all the decorations, the lights, the spookiness of the season, and everyone gets in the mood, and the grandkids dress up like different characters, and it's a fun time of year. And we're getting really close to Halloween, which means, well, my wife and I are trying to decide what movie to watch. You see, we have a tradition now. This tradition is to watch a scary movie on Halloween night. Now, we don't want it too scary. I remember when I was younger, the movies, they were scary, probably because I was a kid. But if I watch those movies now, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't scare me because it's like, oh my God, that monster looks so fake. You can tell it's someone in a costume. Oh, they just stabbed the person. It doesn't even look like real blood. It doesn't look like they stabbed them. It's so poor acting, poor special effects. Yeah, it just did not scare you as much as the movies today. Today, with all the technology, computerized animations, and it looks so real. The storylines, too, have also gotten scary, which makes it like, oh, this really could happen. I mean, a vampire getting up and probably not going to happen. But some strange force coming in, that might have. So yeah, the movies are getting scarier. So it takes my wife a little longer to find a good scary movie because we don't like the ones that are going to scare us to the point where we're not sleeping that night. No, we want the scary ones that are just like, okay, it's Halloween. We watch a scary movie. Made us jump. Okay. So you get your heart racing a little bit. You jump off the couch a couple of times. Yeah, those are the type of scary movies we like. Now, the scary movies, the stories, you know, they are exciting. They're fun. But you know what? Nature has its own horrifying, and that's in air quotes, creatures out there. Yeah, there's everything from zombies to vampires to, well, let's explore some of these horrifying, scary Halloween creatures that are found in nature. Yeah, when I was a kid, I knew that those vampires and such were fake. They weren't real. But are they? Yeah, nature does have some of them. And I'm going to start out with the zombies. Did you know nature actually does have zombie ants? Zombie ants. Are you kidding me? Yeah, in the tropical rainforest, there's ants. It's a certain species of ants. Yeah, you think ants. Okay, there's red ants, there's black ants, there's little ants. There are so many different species of ants out there. Well, there's a certain species of ant in the rainforest that is actually affected and turns into a zombie by a fungus. Yeah, this fungus is in the genus Cordyceps. Now, this fungus in the rainforest will actually affect the ants. Now, to get an idea of how this happens, you have to understand fungus a little bit. They spread their, I'm going to say seeds, through spores. So the spores are essentially the seeds or the reproductive organs of the fungus. Now, the spores are very small. They usually spread through the wind or gravity, whichever. And these fungus will actually spread these spores and they land on an ant. Now, once it attaches itself to this ant, and they've done studies and they found that on certain ants it just kills them right out. Other ants, it actually will attach itself to them, and the spore will actually start exerting this pressure, and it forces its way through the exoskeleton of the ant, and it lodges itself into the brain of the ant. Don't worry, this is in South America, so unless you're going to the rainforests of South America, you have nothing to worry about. Or do you? Yes, actually, scientists at Penn State University have discovered that there's a species of this Cordyceps fungus right here in the U.S. And not only does it affect one species of ant, it affects 2 different species. But don't worry, these zombie ants are not forming a mad upheaval against human society. No, don't worry about that. All they're doing is they're helping the fungus to continue its life cycle. So once again, it lodges itself in the brain of the ant. And it directs the ant to actually climb high into a tree, something that the ant normally wouldn't do on its own. It's like telling it, giving it directions by lodging into the brain, telling this ant, climb way up high in the tree and attach yourself to a leaf. Now, what the ant does is it actually bites into the vein of the leaf, attaching itself to it. And then this fungus kills the ant. So the ant turned into a zombie. It was being directed by a fungus. It climbed this tree, attached itself to a leaf, and then it just died off. And the ant, stuck to this leaf, dead, essentially gets taken over by this fungus. So the fungus starts growing within the ant. And it starts growing on the top of the tree. It does that so it can get the right conditions to grow. It actually directed the ant to the right side of that leaf, in the right sunlight, the right wind conditions. So it turned this ant into a zombie. Now, once it has taken over the body and it's died off and it starts growing through the ant, and you'll see this little ant sitting on the leaf. There's pictures online if you really want to see this. And this ant will be just basically eaten up by this fungus growing out of it. Now, once it's up there, then it starts to drop spores down on the colony of ants, so that other ants will be infected as well, and they do the same thing. So that's how this Cordyceps does this. Now, there are other species of Cordyceps, the fungus, that specialize in different insects, such as grasshopper. Some will attack wasps. Some will go to the tarantula spider. But all of them turn their host into a zombie. Oh. Now, another case in nature of one creature, one monster, taking over the body of another monster. This time it's not so much a zombie thing, but the Ichneumon wasp, the female will actually use its ovipositor. It's a straw-like attachment that will inject eggs into a host. Usually they find a caterpillar or a grub, and the female wasp uses this ovipositor to inject eggs into it. Now the eggs will hatch inside the host, the caterpillar, the grub, and the eggs hatch into a larva inside this host. What it does then is the larva will actually eat its host from the inside out. Now you'd think, okay, so it's eating its host, it would probably kill it right away by eating its insides, and by the time it gets out of the host, eats its way out of the host, don't you think the host would be old and starting to rot and turn back? Well, not really. The reason is because these larvae actually know to save the essential organs, such as the heart, the lungs. It saves those to eat last. That way it can keep the host alive and fresh as long as possible. Once the host dies, then the larva will go through its metamorphosis and emerge as an adult wasp, and the cycle continues. Yeah, the females once again will find new hosts. They'll lay their eggs inside the new host, and everything starts over again. So eating its prey from the inside out. Whoa. And of course, in nature, we have carnivorous plants. Yeah. Have you seen the movie Little Shop of Horrors? I'm sorry, a movie that has the word horrors in should not be as funny as that movie was. Yeah, the movie was kind of comical. The plant, they probably made this killer man-eating plant look funny on purpose. I mean, you could tell it was not real. Feed me. Anyhow, we do have real carnivorous plants in nature, such as the sundew. The sundew plant, I see them all the time in bogs. The sundew has these little red hairs all over the plant, and it secretes a digestive enzyme so that the little red hairs actually catch their prey, usually small insects, and it grabs onto their prey and then secretes this digestive enzyme, which essentially just dissolves the prey into nutrients for the plant. And of course, there are Venus flytraps. Venus flytraps do the same thing, but unlike the sundew, which closes in on the insects with those little red hairs very slowly, the Venus flytrap, as soon as that fly or other insects lands on it, it snaps shut. Now, it doesn't have teeth, so it's not going to chew it, it's not going to bite it. Once again, it's the digestive enzymes that basically break down the food into nutrients for the plant. And another one that we have in a lot of the bogs or swamps that I have hiked through is the pitcher plant. Now, the pitcher plant, that one doesn't have any way of trapping the insect by closing up on it, like the Venus flytrap or the sundew. Instead, the pitcher plant is shaped like a pitcher, like a drinking pitcher. And it has colorful attributes to it that attract the insects to it. And it also has an odor that it emits that attracts the insects. Now, the insects go into this pitcher and they actually get stuck in there because the sides of it are very steep and slippery. So the insect has no way of getting out. And then the bottom of the plant is just digestive goo. Yeah, the insect gets stuck in that and they just dissolve. And that's how the plant gets its nutrients. Now, there's also the butterwort, which has sticky bristles that trap insects. So it's not closing up on it, it's not giving it a slippery, steep section for the insect to get stuck in. Instead, it has these sticky bristles that the insect will get stuck in, almost like Velcro. And the insect can't get out once it gets stuck and once again gets dissolved by digestive enzymes. And in the water world, we have the big floating bladderwort. The bladderwort actually traps aquatic animals, even small fish. It traps them in their cup-like flowers. And once they're trapped in there, once again, the digestive enzymes start eating away at them. So the Little Shop of Horrors, yeah, it's not totally off. It really does happen in a much smaller form in nature. Now, did you know there's also cannibalism in nature? Hannibal Lecter? Yeah, that was a pretty scary movie. I've seen other scary movies with cannibalism as the backdrop of the movie, and it actually does happen in nature, though. It's a natural thing in nature. Very common in insects, reptiles, and amphibians. Yeah, it's very common to cannibalize your own species. Now, it's not as common in birds and mammals. One of the most well-known cannibals, very interesting in nature, is the spadefoot frog from the southwestern U.S. Yeah, the spadefoot frog likes to lay its eggs in desert pools. Now, these desert pools, that almost seems ridiculous. Desert pools? Aren't deserts supposed to be dry? Well, you do get small pools in the desert. And the spadefoot frog will lay its eggs in those pools. Now, these pools are really lacking in nutrients. There aren't plants around it. So it doesn't get the nutrients. The water doesn't get the nutrients. The animals that are in the water don't get nutrients. Well, so how do these hatchling frogs survive? By eating their siblings. So once all these frogs start hatching, they start eating the other frogs, the other spadefoot frogs, their own brothers and sisters. And they also start emitting this enzyme into the water that stunts the growth so that the largest ones will survive by eating the others, and they don't get eaten. So it's amazing how nature works. Cannibalism is quite common in nature. I have heard of screech owls, eastern screech owls, defending their territories, killing another screech owl, and afterwards, they eat it. Yeah, cannibalism. And of course, we do have ghosts in nature. Yeah, there's the ghost bat, which lives in Australia. The ghost bat actually eats small mammals, amphibians, insects, birds, and reptiles. It is Australia's largest microbat and the only carnivorous bat in Australia. They have a white ghost-like appearance. And the size of them, because they're such a large bat, that's where they got the name the ghost bat. Now, the ghost bat will swoop down on its prey, and it bites, you got it, the neck. Now, unlike a vampire bat, who will drink the blood, and I'll get to vampire bats in a minute, the ghost bat doesn't drink the blood of the animal. Instead, the ghost bat eats the entire animal. So if you're ever in Australia, you might want to avoid going out at night time. don't worry. They don't go after large animals like us. Yeah, the ghost bat's after the smaller animals. And speaking of bats, let's talk about the vampire bat. Boy, oh boy, I remember all the movies of the vampires and the really bad animation and special effects in the old days where the bat would turn into a vampire and you could tell very fake. I think there was one movie I watched where all of a sudden a big cloud of smoke and then you see a bat flying away. Or you'd see the bat flying in and all of a sudden a big puff of smoke and there stands this very poorly looking vampire. Yeah, not very good makeup and special effects back then. Now, the vampire bat is the only mammal that feeds entirely on blood. In 1 year, 10 vampire bats can actually drink the blood of 25 cows. Yeah, don't worry, they're not going after people. Okay, cows and horses, usually when they're asleep, are the main victims of the vampire bat. And they feed on these animals for about 30 minutes. So for about a half an hour, they will feed on the cow or the horse. But they only take a little bit of blood, not enough to kill this large animal. So usually it doesn't harm the host, except possibly with disease and infection. I mean, they did just bite this cow or this horse, and where the puncture wounds are, it could get infected. Or if they have disease in the bat, it could spread to the horse or the cow. Other than that, by drinking the blood, they're not taking enough to drain the animal dead. Now, an interesting thing about a vampire bat is they actually have a heat sensor on their nose. That heat sensor can actually detect warm blood flow. So they're looking at the animal with this heat sensor, trying to figure out where is that vein closest to the skin. So unlike all the stories, they're not going flying at the neck and biting the neck of the animal and turning it into a vampire. No, they're going for wherever they can see warm blood close to the surface. That way they don't have to bite as deep. Now, when they bite the animal, they lap up the blood that starts coming out, which is why they can go for a half an hour of eating the blood, or drinking the blood, I should say. They can go for a half an hour and they're not taking enough blood out of the animal to kill it, because they're just biting the animal to get the blood flowing. Now, the saliva of the bat will actually prevent it from clotting. Because you would think if you cut yourself, usually it clots pretty quick, especially if it's little puncture wounds. So this bat is biting and then it's licking, and the saliva actually stops the blood from clotting. That way they can drink up as much blood as they want until they're full. Now, vampirism is not just in bats. There's actually a bird that acts like a vampire. The vampire finch. It's only found in the Galapagos Islands. So if you're not familiar with the Galapagos Islands, that is actually where Charles Darwin did a lot of his studies on the theory of evolution, or the theory of selection. Yeah, the Galapagos Islands, very secluded, and on those islands there is a vampire finch, which is a type of small bird. It is the only bird known to drink blood. Yeah, they'll actually peck at the wing or the leg of blue-footed boobies. Now, if you're not familiar with blue-footed boobies, they're a type of bird, a rather large bird. And they have these blue feet, which is where they get the name from. They're almost comical-looking birds. But these finch will actually go down to the bird, and they will start pecking at the wing or maybe the leg, and the blood starts dripping, and they will start sucking on that blood. They'll start drinking the blood. And it's kind of comical to see this happen, because when they do it, it'll be more than one finch, but not more than one finch will feed at a time. So you'll see this blue-footed booby with maybe blood dripping down its leg, and there's a vampire finch drinking that blood, and there'll be a line of other finch standing behind it, waiting their turn. So when the first one gets its fill, it moves aside, and the next one will come up and start lapping up the blood. And then when he's got his fill, he will walk away, and the next one will come up and start drinking the blood. So the vampire finch, they stand in line waiting to drink the blood. Now, there are other vampires in nature, such as fleas, ticks, bedbugs, leeches, and mosquitoes. They all drink blood. They actually will drink the blood of humans. Whereas these other vampires, like the vampire bat and the vampire finch, yeah, they're going after other animals, not humans. Well, we're pretty much out of time here. I hope you enjoyed learning about the actual monsters in nature. Ooh. Okay, they're not really monsters. They're just animals trying to survive. But nature does have some pretty strange animals out there. I hope you enjoyed listening to the podcast, and I hope you learned a lot about the fascinating creatures in nature. Invite your friends next time to come along with you. Share the podcast with them. Rate and review. Go to my website, naturewanderer.org. You can also find me on Instagram at the Nature Wanderer, underscores in between each word. And I'm also on Facebook, The Nature Wanderer. And you can always join my Patreon or my Ko-Fi page, make a donation to the podcast, keep things fresh and going. And also, you may want to support some great Nature Wanderer merchandise. Yeah, I've got a lot of items with the Nature Wanderer logo on it for sale. All of the links to all of this is in the show notes. You can also get there from my website. Get out there, explore nature, enjoy your Halloween, have a spooky time in nature, and above all, keep exploring the nature around you. Hey, did you know that plastic is produced with oil? A fossil fuel that pollutes the environment. Wouldn't it just be awesome if we could live our lives without plastic? Well, there's a company that wants to help you do just that. Life Without Plastic. They sell products that will reduce or eliminate your dependence on plastic. They have a large selection of products like toothbrushes, food storage containers, drinking straws. And the best part is that they're also very reasonably priced. So what are you waiting for? Check out all these great plastic-free products and help save the planet. Just click on the link in the show notes to find out more and to start your journey to being plastic-free.